Hello and welcome everyone to today's event with Thomas Hübl entitled Aligning Your Life with Your Soul. And hello to the many Mystic Café members here with us today. It's great to be with you. I'm Sherry, your technical host for today's event. If at any time you have technical issues or questions, please email our customer support team at onlinecoursesupport@thomasHübl.com. And my colleague Amy is putting that address in the chat for you now. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can submit a written question at any time by clicking on the Q&A button found at the bottom of your Zoom window. If you don't see it, select More and you'll find the Q&A button there. And now I'm delighted to turn things over to Thomas and our host, Anna. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Great to be with you all. Welcome, everybody. We're so happy that you're joining us today. I'm Anna Molitor. I've been studying with Thomas for 14 years, and I assist in many of the courses. And some of you might know me from our Mystic Café members gathering space, where we come together with each other to explore questions a lot like these that Thomas introduces during the monthly Mystic Café live teaching sessions. And later in our event, we'll share how you can join the Mystic Café and enjoy more of these teachings, and also space to gather as community to explore them with each other. So we're pretty excited. A lot of great questions have come in. Thomas is going to answer as many as time allows as we're here together today in this collective coming together to explore something about soul. Thomas, I'd love to welcome you at this point. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great. And maybe we can start with some of the great questions we've received about this topic, aligning your life with your soul. A good place to start might be with Elizabeth's question: how do you define the soul? Or put another way, Rob asks, what is the soul? That word is widely used in many different ways. I'd like to hear what you mean by it. And also Rami asked a question: isn't life always aligned with the soul? Can it not be aligned with the soul? So maybe just to start there as we drop in.
Wow, beautiful questions. So thank you for writing those in. And yeah, so what is the soul? I mean, often the word soul is used as a philosophical term. And when we explore soul today, we are looking more from a mystical lens. What is actually the experience of alignment? And if we align ourselves with something, it means we are coming more in resonance with. So when we explore the soul, it's less like a theoretical or kind of cognitive term. That's how we call it. But what we are actually describing is a movement. It's like you are describing a movement like a river. Like when you look at the river, the water is flowing. The soul is like that. When our soul gets connected to the DNA of our conception, like the movement of life, like that life is alive, is a product of our soul's movement. So the fact that we have life energy in our body, like vitality or chi, life energy, is is like when you drive your car and you put the hand out of the window and you feel the wind. So life energy is the effect, shows that we are always moving and life is always moving. And the great wisdom traditions say everything is changing, everything is moving. And so the practice of aligning with our soul is actually through a kind of sensing or resonance experience. And that resonance experience we feel usually somehow through our body. That's why meditation is an important aspect of, or any kind of spiritual contemplative practice, because the need that my soul has is space. So when I become more spacious, when I'm very stressed and everything feels close and everything feels noisy, then I don't have much space inside to listen, to reflect, to become aware of, to heal. But when I practice contemplative practices or regulation practices now in the whole stream of trauma work, there are a lot of regulation practices. But what does regulation mean? It means grounding. It means embodiment. It means sensing. It means having more perspective, being able to reflect. It means inner stillness and spaciousness. So, and as the noise of my life becomes a little bit quieter, I can hear, because the soul usually is like a whisper. It's more subtle. It's not so loud as my thinking mind and sometimes my emotions or my triggers. It's something I can feel and sense if I listen in a more subtle way. That's why the soul is a subtle experience, but the soul is a lot of light in us that, like everyone, is basically in a river of light. And the part that is manifest, we call conscious awareness of myself, of the world. I can see, I can feel, I can sense. That is embodied light. Like that's light that is already manifest. Potential light is when we have insights, when we have new ideas, when we feel that life is changing, when I recognize something, when something gets revealed to me, when I have a new initiation in my life so that my consciousness really expands. This is when potentiality becomes more manifest. So we could also say that our soul is the creative impulse that dives deeply into the DNA of millions of years of living, that takes on the context of our family, of our closer community, of our culture, of our age, this time on the planet. Our soul is diving into partly the fixation that our ancestors handed over to us. Today we call this trauma, karma, whatever we call it. It's undigested past. A mix between pain and transgressions. Ethical transgressions leave residues. Trauma, pain, undigested pain leaves a residue. So that creates a world full of past. Not the past that is integrated here, that has this conversation. Because the history is not the past. History is integrated. History looks as this moment. All the functions, all the physical, emotional, mental, cognitive, technological evolution is not just made by us. It has been developed over a long period of time. So presence is integrated history and deeper layers of consciousness together. But the past, as we look at it, is often the unintegrated history that seems like a disturbance, because there were some questions that came in asking, yeah, but why is it so hard to feel the soul? Why do we have seeming blocks on the way? Well, every transgression, and let's face it, I mean, we as humanity really hurt each other badly, and we're still doing it. So transgressions and undigested pain creates a more frozen world, a world that is frozen in the anesthesia of not feeling its past because it's too painful. And so we have been born into a world where to some of that we call today personal issues, like personal issues. But when we look at it, attachment issues, stuff that happened in our childhood, ancestral issues, collective issues, they're all collective trauma. They're all one system. They're not separate things. We feel and experience those as separate things, but in order to experience attachment trauma, our parents usually traumatized, and they were traumatized because their parents carried trauma. So it's something that echoes through the generations. And we could also say that we often talk about peace, but basically, when war stops, let's say the Second World War stopped, the echo of the war is now in family systems. It's called abuse, it's called violence, alcoholism, it's called attachment trauma. It's after the drumbeats of war on another level. So in a way, to really deeply heal is to create sustainable peace. Because peace is not the absence of war, peace is much deeper. And if not, sometimes war comes back, as we see in the world. So our soul has the power, everybody has the power potentially to heal the wounds and the aspects that our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors passed on to us, the unintegrated aspects, because they also passed on to us the integrated life, the resources, the intelligence, the capacity. And so when it's sometimes hard for us to feel our soul, is because our soul shows us, and that's where often we create the separation. We say, oh, I need to get the seeming obstacles out of my way to live my purpose. But the wisdom traditions tell us, no, 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 no. The fact that our soul dives into this specific life circumstance that I call my DNA, my family system, my ancestral system, my cultural system, is the purpose and the question that life has through me and through you and through all of us. So the difficulties that we have are not blocking our way, they are our way. The fact that I heal what I have been born into is also my purpose, as much as my living expression and care and service and contribution to this world. So the soul has the power and the intelligence to keep going, moving through the healing process, instead of getting rid of the difficulties, to onboard whatever needs to be onboarded, to integrate whatever needs to be integrated, for us to become more whole, more unified, less other, more interdependent, less isolated, more connected. But of course, that brings up all kinds of unfelt material in us. But as we do this, and as often we do this in communities, because alone it's, I think, much harder than to do this in community, then our purpose the flow of our soul becomes more palpable and more palpable. And so this means that as we have a spiritual practice that connects us more to our soul, as we have a living practice, living means more honestly, more caring, more loving, more clear, more authenticity, whatever, many different qualities that express a life in alignment. And also my healing practice. So if I have a practice that embraces these three levels, practice, living, healing, then and community helps us on all those levels, helps us to do state practice in strong meditation retreats. Living practice, we remind each other of how we can refine our way of living. Healing practice, we can heal together in community. And that helps us to realign ourselves more and more with the flow of our soul that we can learn to sense when we ask ourselves, what's actually really important in my life? What's essential? What's my vision? What's my intention? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And is what I'm doing aligned with my heart, my soul, the deeper purpose I feel inside? What's my deeper purpose? So as I ask myself those questions, and I'm not hunting the answers, like have a fast answer, I allow answers to emerge, and then I ask it again. And then I ask it again. And every time I deepen the question and I feel into the question, what really matters in my life? And am I aligning my life with the true importance of my life? And so when as said before, the soul is the need of the soul, the same as the body needs food or water or air. Soul needs space, because space is reflection. Space is, I can ask myself questions and listen to the resonance inside. It's not just thinking about, it's also cognition, but connected to sensing, which means sense making. Things make sense. When things make sense, then my cognition and my sensing are one. So what I feel and what I think is one. And so when I ask myself, what's really my intention here? What's my intention with a certain project? What's my intention with a certain work that I do? And I dare to ask myself, am I in the right place? And what's needed from me to show up in the world given my intention? These are questions, or what's essential, that point me back to the core flow of my soul. And mystically seen, we could say the core flow through our central channel, our central nervous system, the resonance that we can feel there through a deep self-contact is the resonance with our soul. Or some people feel the soul kind of in the space above their head. It's like a resonating with, like music. I'm resonating with the music of my soul. I'm listening finer, more attuned. And then that energetic resonance might bring up insights, knowing, maybe not immediately, maybe it takes a bit. I need to practice that. It's listening, sensing, aligning. And that allows more insights to come up. And as I open myself to my soul, it's not just there's one channel of learning in me, and there's another channel of learning that is how I recognize what truly inspires me in the world. What truly inspires us in the world, like when I listen to something, oh, wow, that's really interesting. That is the external representation of my inner light, my soul. When it is inspiring, it speaks to what's becoming in me. So my own becoming, because the soul is also the source of our future. It's the source of the potential that wants to kind of download itself through us. Like when we have a great idea or a great new project or an innovative vision for something that we can bring into the world that truly resonates with the world, then this is my purpose. The world, the soul, my current capacity all together become my purpose. It's not just my purpose in me. It's my purpose is interdependent with the need in the world and my own intelligence. And so when I have a new insight, I feel potentiality, like unmanifest world. The world that is here is energy potential, but not yet as a physically formed reality. But if I create, let's say, a startup, I have a great idea how to solve something in the world, and I create a movement, I create a project, I create an NGO, I create a startup. It becomes through my work, through action, inspiration becomes real. It becomes something tangible in the world. So we could say the soul is the process of energy through the body becoming material world, like manifest world. And that's also when we as children land in the body slowly, what we call today a healthy attachment process or a loving relationship is the invitation of the soul to anchor itself in the body. So the more at the beginning of our life that our soul can really land in the body and anchor itself, the meridians of our body, the energy flow through our body gets more and more active and open and flowing. And our creativity can log in to the body and like this affect the world. And so when that gets hurt at the beginning of our life, we struggle with that somehow. We struggle with manifestation. We feel our potential, but we see that our life is not representing it. So we feel a tension between who we feel we are and who we manifest we are. And so when that happens, that's not a problem. That's part of the journey. Because not to forget, we haven't just been born and planted into fertile soil. We have been partly planted onto kind of frozen soil. Like when you put seeds into the soil, then where it's fertile, plants grow. But when there's trauma or pain, it's frozen. So the soil is not fertile. And parts of us are dealing with the frozenness, and parts of us are alive and engaged and resourced. And our journey is to melt more the frozen soil and create the soil that wasn't there when we were born, that wasn't fertile. That's alchemy. And our soul has the intelligence to do that. And that's true in my personal life, but that's also true collectively. All the people that are living right now have the potential to deal with all the collective questions that we have now. We have the intelligence to resolve whatever we need to resolve: climate change, inequality, racism, the after effects of colonialism and wounds and wars, and to bring the innovation that we can bring. But it doesn't mean that we always actualize it. And that depends on our willingness to step into sometimes the discomfort of learning more about the frozen soil, melting it, and turning it into fertile soil, into flourishing. And how we create community where we are interested in each other's flourishing. Because when you flourish, I resonate. When I want you to flourish, I resonate with your soul. I want you at your best. And if you want your neighbor at his or her their best, then we create a society where we are invested in each other's becoming, in each other's highest potential. And that's very generous. And maybe to finish this so that we can also relate to some more questions. I'm answering also some of the questions that you wrote in already by speaking about this. In the physical world, the pain of the past, the unfelt pain of the past, we experience that as scarcity. Scarcity of resources, scarcity of security and safety, scarcity of life energy, scarcity of opportunities, scarcity in many ways. And the light of our soul is like a spark of the divine, is a reminder of abundance. So now we have incredible access to abundant energy and information. And we also experience the world through a body. And in that body, we might feel scarcity. It's not always easy to support each other into the highest flourishing, especially when I feel that your growth is my lack, that I'm jealous when you're growing, that I get tight, I get afraid. When I see other people flourishing, it shows me maybe my stagnation. That's difficult. And when we allow it to be difficult, and it's like many of us through our process, we sooner or later come to like a bottleneck in our development. It feels like, yeah, it's really difficult. And creating ourselves an environment where that bottleneck can become like a shared experience makes it easier. And our soul's energy carries the seeds of the abundance that can liberate the scarcity of resources in our world into abundance too. It can make the world more fertile. And that's amazing. And that's the alchemical principles that the whole history of alchemy in the mystical traditions was talking about. The fact that we can heal ourselves is an effect of grace. It's also an effect of the light of our soul that can turn the pain of the past into wisdom, into a collective remedy. And I think there's a true beauty to the process. And so aligning our life with our soul, of course, it's not just, today I want to align my life with my soul, and now I listen a bit and it's coming. Yeah, I can listen to it, it's coming, but it will remind me of my homework. The unintegrated parts of my being are my purpose too. And often we externalize that and see that, it's blocking my way. And we can talk maybe a bit more about it because there were some questions that came in especially about that, and how I learn to work with this in a way that this is my way. And through that way, I learn how to love, how to re-own, how to feel my agency, how to get to know my true essence, and. So there's a beauty to this path. And it's, I think, our soul teaches us to love. And it's not always easy to love in a world where there's a lot of pain. So maybe I'll stop here for a moment, Anna, and we can maybe re-relate to some of the many questions that came in.
Yeah, thank you so much. I truly love this topic. And one thing I wanted to say, I felt, and there's lots of questions, like you said, that came in around the blocks to feeling my soul. And I was thinking earlier when you named that the difficulties that we have are not blocking my way, they are my way, and that part of healing what I'm born into is also my purpose, as well as all the different things I want to express and serve. And I feel I can hear and feel some of us feeling like, oh, when the difficulties are the way. I just wanted to come back and highlight what you said about partly that the soul brings us resource for going through that, and also that what you named about community. I just wanted to say I feel how much part of why I've been here for 14 years, like I said earlier, is that the community is a resonance body for, and can catch us when we need more inspiration, when we need connection, when I'm connecting to a new impulse in my soul, and there's people who really deeply receive it, as well as maybe people who are triggered by it, but that's part of the community to really. So I'm just saying that because I know some of us feel also deeply alone, like, okay, how do I go through the layers of integration and also keep connected to inspiration? And one thing is that community aspect that you were naming, and I just wanted to kind of say that is what I've experienced as well, that in the gaps in culture where we don't have so much support for the soul expression, finding those communities is really important. So,
Exactly.
yeah. And yeah, so we've received a lot of questions. I want to name, we'll just get to a few of them. And as was mentioned earlier, we're going to dive deeper into this topic also in the next live teaching that Thomas is going to be doing in our Mystic Café. And then also in the 7-day journey, listening to the whisper of your soul that will begin February 26th. So there's details about that as well if you want to dive deeper. But we'll get to as many questions as we can here. I'm gonna give you two that are somewhat related around, like, yeah, you said something about the blocks, but Haley asked, how can I get out of my own way? Many of us have this question, and remove the blocks that are keeping me stuck and stagnant and unable to grow or move forward so that I can really begin my healing and spiritual development journey and kind of get back on track with my soul's purpose. And you spoke to that a bit, but maybe to deepen like what's needed there in that question. There's also another one that you might bring in is, how can we differentiate between our soul's guidance and our opinions, logic, fear, programming? I would say those conditions we're born into, like, how can we tell the difference in our own contemplation or process between those things?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's like when I listen to you, Anna, then I feel like a resonance. I can feel you in the way you express yourself, the way you speak. Like my body has a resonance, my emotions have a resonance, my mind understands what you're saying. So my understanding or my sense making is based on resonance. And so practicing to say, okay, where do I feel I can stay? I am connected to myself, which means I can sense myself, I can feel myself, and I can think. Of course, we all think and feel. The more connected cognition and sensing are, there's a flow from my physical functions, my emotional functions, my mental functions, my inspirational functions, my relational functions. It becomes a flow. And then we can notice that because that is connected to the resources or the integrated parts of myself. Here I can feel myself. I feel regulated. I can respond to the world. And that is also the plug-in where I can feel my soul. But then there are many or some moments in our life when we feel, actually, I don't feel connected to myself. I feel a bit triggered. I feel disconnected. I feel numb. Either I'm indifferent or I feel that I'm othering part of the world. That's for sure not me, not that, not these are the others, these are them. And that means that I am caught up in the outer polarization. So I'm not in a resonant state. So that state feels more reactive, and that state is more driven by my past experiences reenacting themselves. So, but that's not a wrongdoing. That's just given in relation to how I grew up, my circumstances, and. So often when, for example, recurrent fears come up, I really want to contribute something to the world, but I'm afraid to start it. I'm afraid to start it. And then the mind says, well, how can I get rid of my fears? But the fact that I have recurrent fears means that as a child, I already needed to get rid of my fears. That's why they are coming back all the time. So we often want to get rid of what we already got rid of. And the more we try, the more stagnant it becomes. But the more I say, wow, how maybe also I didn't feel compassionately loved and held when I was afraid as a child. So of course, shutting that down when it was really too much was intelligent. Today it feels like a block, but then it was the best thing I could do for myself is to kind of numb those fears. But like this, I numb part of my body, part of my emotions, and I suffer from anxiety today. So this is just one blunt example, a simplified example of what seems today as a block is actually a function that I don't understand. And so also when I get triggered, say, oh, I shouldn't get triggered. How can I get rid of my triggers? Versus, yes, how can I learn to regulate myself better or more or faster? But how can I also become curious that my triggers are actually part of the fuel of my development? If I can learn to look deeper, I will unearth something in myself that will make me feel more whole. Hence, I will relate to the world in a different way, and I can bring my soul's purpose more seemingly into the service. But the fact that I struggle with this is my soul saying, look, look, look. So it's not preventing me from feeling my or living my soul's purpose. It's my soul's compassion to what my parents, my grandparents, and their parents couldn't digest, couldn't live, couldn't understand, because it was too much for the transgressions that our ancestors didn't own. And here we are, and our soul says, look, look, this is something for you to see, for yourself and your ancestors to heal. And so the love of our soul is pointing us all the time. But we are saying, let go out of the way. Go out of the way. Let's just express ourselves. But healing is also an expression of the love of our soul. It's how our soul channels grace into our life and gives us the opportunity to heal our world through us, the personal, ancestral, collective aspect that we carry, and help us to let this world become bigger, and help us to create a bigger world for our children. Not because trauma is taking a loan from the future. The more we hurt each other, the more we close the future for our kids. The more we heal ourselves and each other, the bigger will be the world, the more possibilities will the world have that our children, that we and our children walk into. And so that's why our soul often tells us, look, 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 because this is love. Even if it's uncomfortable, it says, look. And if we sign up for it, then this is as much our purpose to create a fertile soil for our own birth. Even while we are alive, we are creating a fertile soil for our own birth. That's the power of light. That's the power of our soul that has a, we could say, a retrocausal effect. It's an effect of the future being able to change in a way the past and to onboard that painful past into kind of growth, ethical growth, emotional growth, maturation, become mature citizens of our world and really take care of this world together. Yeah, maybe so far about the blocks.
Oh, it's very touching. I found that so very touching. Also, some deep recognition of this, the soul going, look, look, look. And when we finally go, instead of like trying to get past it, we go, oh, this piece that I inherited, or this piece. And we start to be gentle and curious. So it's very, very touching what you're saying. And I recognize it so deeply, level after level. There's those moments of like, oh, you've been saying, look, and I've been trying to find it somewhere else. And that you said healing is also an expression of the love of our soul. It's how our soul channels grace into our life. And this I was so touched when you said we are creating a fertile soil for our own birth. And I can say, like, I can really feel I have that experience. It's not just a concept, that through this work, that's really true. It's deeply touching. So thank you for.
Because we need to see the miracle in it. When we heal our own, what we call today attachment trauma or birth trauma or anything that happened in our childhood, we actually can create qualities through our healing process together with the help of others, not just we alone, like the whole ecosystem that supports us with it. We can create qualities of love or compassion or holding or intimacy that simply weren't in our family system. Our parents couldn't give it to us because they were hurt themselves. So the system didn't really represent those qualities. And so when we heal ourselves, first of all, we can pass that on to our children and their children, but we actually open up the soil that wasn't fertile when we were born. And this is amazing. This is the restorative capacity of life. And so, and that means also when I heal, I become somebody that I don't know. It's not I restore what's in the past and then I'm the same but more restored. No, I'm growing through every step. And how I'm growing is part of my purpose. So let's say I'm afraid to do something and to go out into the world and I heal my fear more and more. How I grow through that process is part of what's needed to become a remedy where I go. So I'm able to create more safety. I'm creating ecosystems that are more resonant and safe. And so other people benefit from it, not just by what I do, but by what my energy transmits. So my own healing becomes a remedy. It's part of my purpose.
Yeah.
And I think many of us have seen this, that things we heal, we can pass on to others easily because it's trustworthy.
Yes.
We know what we are speaking from.
Exactly. That's really beautiful. Yeah. And like you've said before, it's like we transmit that anyway. And maybe it comes as wisdom and maybe it comes as ground in a situation that before I would have been very shaky. And then, it's like, oh, it's okay. We transmit like, I know this can change. I know this can heal, right? I've been there, right? Because we brought the light with that needle and brought the light through that place. And maybe that connects with this next question I wanted to bring anyway, which is that Heather brought this great question of, could you speak of soul in terms of initiation? When things are being stripped away or breaking down to make way for something new, when we're taken into the dark valleys and difficult times, how is that a movement of soul as well? And you're kind of speaking to that. And I also wanted to name that often we can think like, oh, when I'm connected to my soul, it feels great. I'm free flowing. And I've found it's quite many times it's the opposite because we're breaking through the frozen soil with that light. So if you could speak more to that.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes we think, oh, we are just becoming more aware of the world. So an initiation is access to more awareness. So something new breaks through. Suddenly I feel more, I see more, I become more aware of things make more sense. I truly live in a new state of coherence. And I feel suddenly many more things. And then we have phases where it seems like slow down. And then we might have phases where it seems like one insight comes after the next, after another. And so feels like an accelerated growth. And so naturally, I become more aware of life. But that includes that I become more aware also of the life that I didn't feel. Because not feeling or reducing the intensity of our experience for many of us was absolutely needed and saved our development. Anesthetizing our experience, or putting the numbing painkiller unconscious. What is the unconscious? Is information that has been turned off. So when I naturally grow in my spiritual or consciousness growth, and I become more aware of life, I also become more aware of where I don't feel life, the parts that I disowned or shut down or split off, what we call trauma or wounds or shadow. And so naturally that gets amplified too. So that's why many of the saints and sages that described their journey sometimes said, okay, wow, I had this opening and I was immersed in divine light. And then they described what they call sometimes the dark night of the soul. But that's very natural. As mystical practitioners, we know the truth and the relevance of that. And we also know that some of those things we can take care of on the way, in a way professionally, so that they become easier, that these times when we go through the undigested pain of ourselves or our cultures has to come up for us to be able to embody a new initiation. Because the body is the world, the body is the planet, and more consciousness illuminates this planet more, but all of it. It doesn't just illuminate my joy and my happiness and my harmony and my insight and my connectedness to the world and to nature. No, it illuminates also the parts in myself that are numb. And some of those parts I even don't know that I have. Some of it I kind of know, but some of these parts or some of these aspects I didn't even know about. They just show up when the time is ripe and when I am strong enough or grounded enough to that this can come up. But some of it is really challenging. That's why on the spiritual journey, there is a process how to create the right cup or a strong enough container for this to happen in a way that we can digest it, that we can support each other, that we have the right support. There's a whole science to this process, like an inner science. And that's how we communicate with the soul's intelligence that goes through this process, because it illuminates or enlightens or awakens the part of us that is asleep. But what does it mean asleep? Like an anesthesia. It's not feeling. And the repetition of suffering is in where we individually and collectively are asleep. We see things happening. We don't ask, why is there another war? Why is there another this? How come that this happens again? How comes that this happens again? Because we see the symptoms, but we don't feel deeply the process, which is okay. This is part of it. But in the initiation of our soul, when we wake up more, that painkiller fades. And that can be challenging. And in these moments, we really truly need support. It's very good to have community, also to seek professional support. Sometimes it's good to go to a therapist to work through these things. This is not, I cannot do it alone. This is, I take responsibility for what I need to deal with this. This is responsible. This is the highest thing to do, is look for support. We are not supposed to do it alone. And that we cannot do it alone is not the truth. It's not I cannot, I'm not strong enough or good enough. No, there's an intelligence in looking for support. That's also the unlock to heal myself. And so that's very important. And because when these things come up, it's not that because some people say, oh, I don't know how to deal with this. Yeah, sometimes it brings up all the overwhelm that we didn't know how to deal with these things. This was the truth. And so now it's just becoming more apparent, and to bring love and compassion and softness and also support in is exactly what's needed to go through such a phase. And then these phases become a real blessing. If we can transform such a phase and we stabilize ourselves in this new initiation, but in a grounded and embodied way, that is amazing. That is, then we see what was difficult is actually one of our biggest blessings. And I have seen, when we interviewed many speakers that do great work in the world, and we interviewed them, you were part of it, for the Collective Trauma Summit, and you listen to some of the journeys, some of the biggest difficulties became the biggest blessings and the best work in the world. It's the soul, it's the challenge, the transformation of the challenge is the purpose. And then it becomes also the contribution in the world. And what seems like the block was actually the blessing. Because once it's in our life, if we can prevent harm or pain, so let's do it. But if it's already in our past, we have to release it, we have to heal it. And so that's our journey. And I think when we do it together, there's a real beauty to that journey.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I love that you address this, like in our hyper individual cultures, we can think seeking support means I failed at something, but actually it's like the support is part of what you said about creating like the fertile soil. It's part of how I create fertile soil for my birth or the birth of a vision or the soul's impulse coming for me, for my lineage, for the culture, whatever it is that's working through each of us. So that finding the support when needed is that, like you said, it is that enact. It's the way we unfold the soul's impulse. And I just, as I'm listening, it's just, I really see, like sometimes it can seem like, oh, it's such a big topic that you're talking about, or the arc of this journey, but it's literally in the moment. It's every moment. It's where I turn a little bit towards right now how I'm feeling, and I say, oh, okay, can I listen, and can I take the next step? And can I find the support when I need it? And then more light, more inspiration comes, and maybe through finding the support, something sparks, and like it's all happening through these moments when I can make a choice to move and or to turn towards myself in the way you described also. So just wanting to highlight that for us, that as you're speaking, it feels maybe like a big vision, and also it's very precise to a practical process that we're in.
Yeah.
At any moment, like every one of us right now in this space is in one moment of that. We're in it. So
Exactly. And it's like in another way, you can describe this, many of us know these mandalas and sometimes the paintings also in Buddhism or the tankas, or where you see like the world, the heavens and the darker realms and the life in between, and basically our soul, we can describe our soul as a river. We could also describe the soul as the canvas of the mandala of our life. All our life experiences are painted on the kind of paper of our soul. And if that's a moving mandala, it's not as stagnant, it's like a moving, it's like all our life. And as we wake up, the light, the background, the canvas is shining through all those different parts. So it's like our whole life journey is like the painting. It's a living painting. And our soul is the awareness that shines a light through it. And as we walk our life, it's the fact that we are all here in this space means something is calling us to explore this. Everybody who is here and listening to this feels a calling. It's not always exactly the same calling, but we feel a calling to develop. We feel a calling to grow. We feel a calling to practice. Why would somebody sit around, do nothing, and we call meditation? Because there's a calling. I want to get to know life deeper. I want to become more intimate with life. I want to understand this reality. And as we listen to this calling, we listen to something in us that knows something. And that's very important, because that's also the basis of this mandala. And as we follow that calling, because once we hear it strongly enough, there is no way back. It's not that you just can give up on healing yourself now. Once you're in it, like when it happens, you heal more and you heal more, you develop more, or you have more insights. And so that drive illuminates our entire life, so that the light at our mandala becomes translucent. That's the transcendence, that's the awakening process, like the bringing more and more consciousness into the living painting of our life. And I think that there's a lot of beauty, and the more we sign up, the more support we get, because the energy of our soul is abundant. So when we say yes to it, we get support inside and outside. We attract more support into our life too. So I think that's very beautiful.
Yes, thank you so much, Thomas. And I see, so excited about this conversation. We're at the end of our time, but there's one more question. If you could just very briefly speak to, we have had a lot of questions coming in around the specific tools and practices of this. And Nikki asked, how do I practice on a daily basis being or becoming open in my heart, soul, my whole being? And people are asking for like one specific practice that you can do, everyone could do right now. And yeah, just to
Yes.
mention for everyone that our upcoming Mystic Cafe and the 7-day journey is filled with those kinds of practices, but maybe you could give us one briefly for right now.
Yeah, one is when I like there's a way to try to listen just through our mind. Like we are caught up in our thinking, we are trying, okay, how do I do this? And it's more like a mental process. When I ground myself in my body, even now, when we are here, and I say, okay, I feel my body. How do I feel my body? Through sensations. I feel my hands, I feel my legs, I feel my feet on the ground, whatever. I feel my body. And I come into like a sensing of myself. Or maybe I'm more practiced and I can feel my core. I can feel myself. Or maybe I feel my heart and what I feel my heart space. And so when I connect to my sensing, not just my thinking, my sensing, and I can rest there for a bit, maybe through my breath, I can ground myself. So then there's naturally more space inside. And when I listen in within this inner space, and what I said before, I ask myself simple questions. What truly matters to me? What's the real deep intention in my life? What's really calling me? What's essential? Like these kind of questions. They are pointing me back, and then I feel and see what's arising. That's one way. I mean, there are other spiritual practices, but they are a bit too complex in 2 minutes or 3 minutes to do now. But this pointing myself back to refine my core intention, the intention of my life. And when I ask them what's truly important, and then maybe 2, 3 words come up. And then I ask it again, what's truly important? And then more. And like this, I begin to feel what's really essential. And the more what I feel there is more and more my core. And so as I practice this, listens, asking myself and listening, asking myself and listening, I'm refining something. It's like a contemplation. And the more I touch it, then maybe also more inspiration will start to flow in because I'm more connected to that. And like that, I deepen that inquiry. And that's one way, for example, to do it that is simple, that doesn't need a lot of other practice knowledge. And then there are, of course, many spiritual practices and meditations to open those channels in us.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for all of the inspiration for our soul journey. And thank you to everyone who came here and infusing your light and your interest and curiosity into the space. We're really looking forward to joining with you all again. And Sherry, over to you to give us some more details. Thanks, everybody.
And thank you, Anna. Thank you, Thomas. If you're feeling curious and you'd like to join us, you can learn more and sign up at www.mysticcafeonline.com. And Amy is putting the link in the chat now. The 7-day journey begins with a live Mystic Cafe session with Thomas on Thursday, February 26th. And if you can't make it live, the recording and transcript will be sent to you afterward. To make this community as accessible as possible, membership is only $37 a month and includes the live teachings, guided meditations, and gatherings with fellow members. Each month in the Mystic Cafe, you'll explore a unique mystical principle live with Thomas. And you can read more about those on the website at www.mysticcafeonline.com. Thank you again warmly for being here with us today. We invite you to join us in the Mystic Café. Thank you and bye for now.